today I'm going to share with you a summer Appalachian favorite, strawberry rhubarb cobbler. This is quite simple to make. All you're going to need are some fresh strawberries and some fresh rhubarb. Now, the rhubarb here that I'm going to be using is coming fresh from my garden. But if you do not have rhubarb, you can get this at your local farmer's market and sometimes in your local grocery store. So when harvesting rhubarb, the best trick to remember is that you want to make sure you're harvesting the rhubarb that has aged properly and is not the young rhubarb. However, you can harvest everything from your plant and allow it to produce again. Just note, the more you allow the rhubarb to grow, the bigger your harvest will be, but you want it to do very well. So here we have one that has actually gone to seed. On the right, as you see, it is hollowed out. The left is the rhubarb that we can use. So that is really what you do not want. You don't want your plant to go to seed. However, you can still take that tender stalk off, but discard the piece that has the holes in it. It is not going to be edible. Then when you have your slices of rhubarbs cut, you just want to basically cut off that top limb. Here I'm going to harvest the biggest stalks, cutting off that top leaf and continuing until I get enough rhubarb for a delicious cobbler. And it is not very hard to cultivate your own rhubarb plants. You simply just need to get a couple of plants from the store during the springtime when they have them. You can plant these in a raised bed. However, I have enough land where I can put these in the ground and I don't have to worry about them. So like I said, I am just going to keep harvesting until I have enough rhubarb that I fill for that delicious cobbler. Now, this is not an exact recipe. You don't have to use a certain amount of rhubarb to a certain amount of strawberries. I like a tart cobbler, so I put a little more rhubarb than strawberries, but you can adjust the ratios to your own liking. If you want more of a fruity, sweet flavor, then you can just simply add more strawberries over the rhubarb. However, that sweet and tart combination from both the strawberries and the rhubarb make for an amazing dessert. So definitely at least give it a try once. I will guarantee that you'll be using this recipe a lot throughout the summer months. So once all the rhubarb has been cut, now it is time to take it inside to wash. This is just to ensure that all of the dirt and debris is removed from the surface of the rhubarb prior to peeling the skin off the exterior and cutting it up into the cobbler itself. It is also important to wash your strawberries prior to cutting them up as well. So once you have your rhubarb washed, you can go ahead and cut it up into slices. It is important to note that the tender rhubarb, which is the smaller stalks, typically will not need peeled. But as you can see in this photo, there will be times where you are slicing the rhubarb and it develops a strand. At that point, I just peel that strand off and continue cutting. However, there are times where it would be more beneficial to just go ahead and peel the stalk as well. So the larger stalks, I would suggest peeling them as well. So now we can go ahead and slice up our strawberries to add them to the rhubarb slices. There's no rocket science to this. You just simply cut your strawberries in half, and for the very large ones, you continue quartering them down to get them to the size that you want them. Not really too small because they will disintegrate, but you don't want them so large that they don't cook all the way through. So once our rhubarb and strawberries have been sliced into a oven-safe glass dish, we're going to make our cobbler topping. My recipe is simple. It uses self-rising flour. And to that self-rising flour, I add some granulated sugar. Simplicity always makes the best treats. So why worry about making something, following a specific recipe, when you can follow this recipe? It is simple, quick, easy, and straightforward. Just how I like it. So once you have your flour and your sugar, I always like to stir them together just a little bit to combine them. Then, once they are combined and incorporated a little bit, I add in the milk. So now, just measure out an equal proportion of milk. Pour into the dry ingredients and stir very well to incorporate. You can use a whisk as well. I prefer to use a large spoon just because it's quicker, it is easier, and in reality, you're not really wanting this mixture to be smooth. You'll see some lumps in the mixture, and that is okay. Now we're going to go ahead and just pour it over. I start pouring around the edges, and then whatever's left over, pour in the center. It is all going to settle into the center at some point, but if you pour it on the edges, that will ensure that every little nook and cranny of your cobbler is going to have some topping. So after that, I go ahead and just chop some tablespoons of butter and cube that onto the top just to give it some extra depth of flavor. And for your cobbler topping, it is going to make it crisp up and brown to perfection. Now it is just time to wait for the oven to do its magic. You want to put this into a 350-degree oven for about 30 to 45 minutes. You're looking for a nice set top to your cobbler. It should be gooey in the center. However, you should have a nice doughy surface. It is the perfect cobbler dough topping to fruit ratio. And really all you have to do is wait a couple minutes for it to cool enough for everything to set together. Spoon it out onto your favorite dish and enjoy. I often put 1 scoop of ice cream or some Cool Whip on top. However, when this cobbler comes straight from the oven, there is no better way to enjoy it but just like it is. Every bite is going to be perfect because you're getting that tartness from the rhubarb, a little bit of sweet from the strawberries, but also you have to consider the dough topping that has the sugar in it as well. It is truly a perfect bite. So I recommend trying it this way at least once. If you prefer to modify it, making it a little more sweet, you can do so. But I guarantee you, if you try it this way, it will be your new favorite. This is true Southern Appalachian dessert at its finest. I always enjoy this in the summertime with my family, and I hope you will try it soon.